Okay, it's 5:30. So we're going to call to order the regular meeting for the Planning Commission. Today is Tuesday, June 17th. Can we do roll call, Emily?
Absolutely. Commissioner Kuntz,
Present.
Commissioner Cummings,
Here.
Commissioner Fain, Commissioner Hewitt,
Present.
Commissioner Lefevre, Commissioner Mahalik. Thank you.
Okay, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Approval of minutes. This is for the meeting on June 3rd, our last meeting. Did the commission have a chance to look at the minutes? And if so, is there any discussion or changes that are needed? Seeing nothing, yes, Dennis.
Just under 7.1, the second line where it says transportation impact plan, should that be transportation improvement plan? Just a minor thing, but thank you.
Okay. So is that the only corrections? Okay. Would somebody like to move that we approve minutes as corrected?
I'll move to approve with the revision.
Okay, do we have a second? Eileen, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please raise your hand. Okay, minutes stand approved as read. The land that we know as Squim was once inhabited solely by First Peoples known as the S'Klallam people, represented by the three tribal governments, Lower Elwha S'Klallam, Jamestown S'Klallam, and Port Gamble S'Klallam. We serve as stewards of the land within the city of Squim with the same care and consideration the S'Klallam tribes has and continue to provide. This acknowledgement is a respect to the S'Klallam people and their history. The Planning Commission serves as an advisory body to the City Council. The purpose of the Planning Commission is to provide guidance and direction for Squim's future growth through continued renew and improvement to Squim's comprehensive plan, zoning code, shoreline management, environmental protection, and related land use documents. The Planning Commission will have all of the powers and perform each and all of the duties specified by Chapter 35A.63 RCW as amended and set forth or amended by ordinance. Public comment. At this time, general public comment will be heard. Each person is limited to 3 minutes. We do not have a public hearing tonight, so this is the opportunity for somebody to provide public comment if they would like. And seeing no one in the room, Emily, is there anyone online?
No one online.
Okay. So that closes the public comment section of the meeting. And moving forward into general business, we have our highly anticipated comprehensive plan status update.
Okay. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. It's always my pleasure to have this agenda item to give you an update on where we're at with the comprehensive plan. And so as usual, I'll highlight a few things for your attention before we get to the next agenda item, which is the natural environment chapter. We've been working, plugging along at the other pieces of the comprehensive plan. Primarily what I've been doing since our last meeting 2 weeks ago is I met with the Sustainability Committee on the Climate and Resiliency chapter and met with the Parks, Arbor, and Recreation Board yesterday. And both the Sustainability Committee and the PARB want to spend a little bit more time with that chapter. So it will make an impact on the schedule that is in the status memo. And what I wanted to ask for the Planning Commission's consideration is we did have scheduled July 1st as the Parks and Open Space chapter, but because the PARB board, and that was tentative, and because the PARB board needs to have one more meeting with it, they only meet once a month, so they won't meet again until July 21st. And we are on track for the transportation chapter to come on July 15th, and the climate and resiliency chapter will be able to be completed through with the sustainability committee and can still come forward on August 5th. And because July 1st is on the week of the holiday, I just thought I'd put out whether or not you wanted to take that day off or if there was something else that we could look to bring forward to you that day, which there could be, but I don't have it off the top of my head right now. So I don't know if that's something, Madam Chair, you want to talk about, but I just thought I would walk through that schedule and let you know where we're at with the different chapters. And then I don't think there's anything else to update in the memo from what it's currently written at right now.
Would you have, at this point, would you have anything pertinent to bring forth on July 1st?
I actually don't think I would have anything as a full chapter ready to bring forward.
Okay. I know that there is a possibility that I won't be attending, but I don't know yet. Depends on the plans of my guests that are possibly coming that day. What does the commission think? Anybody, how does everybody else yes, Dennis?
I also will be missing that meeting due to a prior conflict. So if we cancel, I would be appreciative of that.
Okay. We will have our new commissioner, Will. So if everybody else is planning on attending and would still like to hold the meeting, we would have a quorum if everybody else was here. Any thoughts?
I'm okay if we cancel, but we already have two things scheduled for the August 5th meeting to be presented. So I'm just kind of making sure that we're going to get everything done in the timing. That's all. I just want to raise that concern. But as far as canceling the meeting, if there's nothing to present, nothing will be accomplished. So I'm okay with not meeting.
And you did say that transportation on the 15th is still looking pretty good, right? Okay.
If I may, Commission, just throw this out there, and I've not vetted this with Carla, so she reserves the right to. But I mean, if the commission is interested in having a meeting on July 1st, I think that it could review the chapter with the understanding that PARB and sustainability are not done. So I guess the question before the commission would be whether or not you would want to review it with the understanding that some of the things that you may be commenting on, some of the things that you may be considering may be completely different by the time you get it back from them. But if you want to have a meeting on that, there's certainly no stopping you, but it would be with the great big asterisk of other people are reviewing this as well, and it's subject to change. And so really, I think the question is how relevant you think the commission's input would be on a draft document.
Okay, thank you. Any input? Eileen?
I guess my thoughts are we don't want to, even if we have a draft document, we're going to have to look at it again. So we kind of, I don't know if that's a good investment of time, of our time and staff time, if we could, and we're so efficient and effective at our meetings that I think, we could pull through and get our work done. And So I'd rather not look at something 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
If it's not the final version, then I think that's not a good use of our time.
Okay. Well, and we could move forward, looking for input on this from the commission. We could move forward, still holding the meeting. And then if it looks like there isn't anything, so that we still have the placeholder. So if something comes up. And then if it's only going to be the draft, would everybody feel comfortable? If it comes to fruition and that's all we have before us, would the commission feel comfortable with just canceling that meeting, or would you still like to look at the draft?
I'm
Yes.
fine taking the holiday.
Okay.
I think I agree with Ellen.
Okay.
Better use of the time, just doing it once, and I'd like Par's input before I take a look at what's being done.
Okay. Thank you. Everybody else? Okay. So then we will still tentatively hold the meeting if anything pertinent comes up. Just so that we will be available if we need to. And then if not, we'll just, see you on the 16th, I guess, or 15th. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Anything else on the comprehensive plan review? Okay. Does the commission have any questions, thoughts, comments? Nope. I will say I do like this. It's very helpful to see the bullet points and to kind of understand that we're on track. This is what we've got before us, and then also to to kind of show like this is what we oh yes, we're supposed to be working on that next week, and then it comes before us. So I appreciate it. Okay, so then we'll move on to new business, the draft of the natural environment chapter. So,
So I can make a few introductory comments to this. So
okay,
and then turn it back over to you. The natural environment chapter is a one of the optional chapters under for the comprehensive plan as defined by the Growth Management Act. However, you'll see that there's actually a lot of important information that's in there, and that is does tick a number of boxes of GMA requirements, like ensuring we have policies of protecting our critical areas, shoreline, acknowledgement of our shoreline master program, and also some energy in our energy conservation, and then urban forestry regarding tree and Tree City of Squim. So it does have a lot of important pieces in there in this chapter. And it's also one that can be considered standalone in the sense that it's not its goals and policies aren't tied to the land use map in the sense of what what the land use designations are and what we want to see in the land use for the future. So again, it's one of those standalone chapters that are able to be presented to you here at the kind of the beginning of the rollout of the comprehensive plan chapters. And as you see, it continues the formatting that we have seen in the community character chapter, and you will see throughout of all the other chapters as we bring them forward. So with that, I will pause and we can go through the draft chapter.
okay. So we'll start with the first page of this chapter.
Just a quick question before.
Yes.
Just for clarification, these policies, are these mostly mandated by state? They look pretty standard.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Karen. That is true. A lot of them are going to reflect the critical area protection requirement from the state law under the Growth Management Act. So you'll see each one or each kind of category has some very standard sounding language that is almost slightly regulatory in nature, and that is because they are reflecting those requirements from the Growth Management Act as far as critical area and environmental protection.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Eileen.
Another quick question for you. You know, you mentioned that this is an optional section for the comp plan. What does that mean? That do most comp plans include this anyway? Because this is
Yeah.
important to us?
Yes.
But
Most
it's not
comprehensive
required.
plans, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it's not a mandated thing, but is helpful to us in our community.
Yes, and it is one chapter that is that most comprehensive plans include, and it's because it's an appropriate context for the critical area shoreline environmental protection standards that are and requirements that are from growth management, because otherwise they would be put in a like the land use chapter, for example. And so it did over time as comprehensive plans and growth management has gone through the years. The natural environment or environmental chapter is something that most comprehensive plans do have within their their covers, and honestly, it might as well be required because a lot of the things in here do reflect requirements of the Growth Management Act. Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so let's start out with the first page of this, which in the packet is page 12 of 27, but it's the first page of this chapter. Anybody have anything on it? I liked it. I didn't see anything that needed to be changed or revised. Nope. Okay. Then we'll move to the second page, which at the bottom of the first page is environmental stewardship. And then it goes into the second page where it's got goal NE-1, protect, sustain, and provide for healthy and diverse ecosystems within SQUIM, and it goes down through the policies. How about this page? Everybody good? Yes, Larry?
I just have a question. Any 1.3, we talk about state tribes. Is there any federal stuff that we have to comply with that we just slip the word federal agencies in there or not?
Which policy?
Any
Oh,
1.3, we call out state agencies, tribes, et cetera. We don't call out federal.
Yep.
It's fine if we don't. If they don't really apply, then that's fine. But
They do actually. Go ahead. Do you want to? Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, no, I was just going to note that that is a very good catch because Pacific Northwest National Laboratories has a lot of federal contracts and things like that. And there's been some rumors for many years that they are being transferred to the Department of Defense. So, and if they annex into the city, that would absolutely be applicable. So thanks.
Good catch. Okay, anything else on that page? Okay, we'll move to the next one, which is critical areas. How about this one? There you go. Everybody clear on wetlands and
Well,
yes, Eileen.
I mean, no, wetlands is problematic in a lot of development. And does the city generate the question, is this wetlands? Or does the state come in and say, this is wetlands and you can't do this because it's wetlands? Who is in charge of designating that, I guess?
The city is the lead agency in protecting these GMA defined critical areas. Yeah. And so what is a wetland? Like, is it a a pond, a puddle, or a wetland, that is defined by Department of Ecology with their wetland delineation standards and requirements, which actually is also informed by the Army Corps of Engineers. And so what is a wetland and how big they are is defined by ecology. What buffer is applied to a wetland is defined by the city. And ensuring protection of it during development is the responsibility of the city.
So the Department of Ecology and the Army Corps of Engineers, they say this is wetland. And then the city chooses to protect the wetland? No.
We're required
But
to
you-
protect the wetland.
Okay, required.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're required. And that is that the 3670 A0602 up there at the beginning, that it is the responsibility of the city to adopt policies and development regulations to designate and protect critical areas. So ecology and the Corps provide the written words as far as like the documentation. It's called a wetland manual, and it is what wetland biologists use when they go out in the field to determine. There's a ton of worksheets that they have to fill out. They do test pits, which sounds bigger than they are. There are just shovels of dirt, but there's a whole protocol that they follow into determining the soils and then determining what a wet soil looks like and a dry soil, and then that's how they determine the wetland delineation, which is of a term meaning the wetland boundary. And they use that material to determine the wetland boundary. And then the city in its critical area ordinance has buffer requirements for the different categories of wetlands that are categorized by the manual. So it is, we're responsible for ensuring developers identify them and protect them. We utilize a number of resources in helping the developer know there's a wetland on their property. Then they're responsible for the delineation, hiring their own wetland biologist. We confirm that delineation and apply the buffer. So we do most of the work through project review, but we use the state agency documents as well as the applicant's wetland biologist too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes, Dennis.
Thank you. Maybe it's just me, but under policy NE 2.1, the last sentence seems like a developer should only protect the wetland and their buffers during construction. But they're mandated to maintain and make sure that wetland keeps its value in perpetuity. I wonder if we could maybe reword that last sentence to say during all phases of development, even after construction and,
What if we just deleted during development?
okay.
I think
That
that might
works
work.
too.
Because I mean,
Yeah.
that is a point, that is a very valid point.
Yeah, I agree.
And the other comment I had on this section too is the numbering is a little wonky.
Oh, yes, thank you. Oh, my goodness.
But thank you.
Okay. Wonky. Yeah.
Hopefully I'll get there.
Okay. So then I guess we'll assume that any 2.1 and then it'll be any 2.2 and then 2.3 and then 2.4. Okay. Anything else on this page, which is 15 of 27? Thank you, Dennis, for that. Okay, so we'll move on to the official page 7 of 18, but it's 16 of 27 on the agenda packet. How about this one? This is continuing for critical areas. Yes.
Regarding critical aquifer recharge areas, do we have various levels of protection for the various vulnerabilities, so to speak, the high, medium, and low CARAs that are out there? Interdevelopment standards, not necessarily in policy, but
Yes, so we do have some CARA provisions in our critical area ordinance right now. I don't know if they're the varies to, I haven't taken a look at them in a bit, but I will share with you that Department of Ecology, I think I was trying to remember if it was Commerce or Ecology, they did release CARA updated guidance or CARAs for your critical area ordinance about 2 years ago. So when we start working on the update to the critical area ordinance, we will be taking a look at that guidance and we'll probably use it wholesale. It is very similar to our approach to the frequently flooded and the FEMA work where unless there's something unique to Squim or Column County that we would hire a hydrologist for to assist with our best available science, then we would be using the state guidance for it. So I do believe that the new guidance will reflect your, when we're updated to the new guidance, it will reflect that different layers of CARAs.
okay, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, thanks. Anything else on this page? Okay. We'll move on to page 17 of 27 on the agenda packet. And this is still kind of the same, but a little bit more into the geological side. Anything? No, okay. Then we'll move on to 18. I'll tell you, Carla, you really do a pretty good job of thoroughly, writing, which is kind of nice because but we do like to critique things, and I am fairly impressed when I'm reading it and I'm like, oh, I don't have anything. Like
Well, thank you very much. I sure appreciate that. But
Yeah.
I always value planning commissioner comments, and so I look forward our time together to hear what you have to share and add to and revise.
Thank you. Okay, how about this page? This is where we start getting into fish and wildlife habitat conservation areas. Yes, Eileen?
So around us, there's all kinds of creek, river restoration for salmon, increasing salmon populations. So are we, part of that, or is that kind of a separate thing? And a lot of the projects are just outside the city. But
Well, if you're talking about culvert replacement, I probably will let Christina answer that question because I'm not that familiar with if there have been identified culverts here in the city that the city is responsible for replacing. But is that what you're talking about, the culvert replacement?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
then I will let Christina answer then. I was going to talk about stream protection in general, but
So, yes, the Johnson Creek right out here by White Feather is a perfect example of a lawsuit that was initiated by several tribes at least 20 years ago. And it had to do with the constriction of the culverts, and it was alleging that it was damaging to the salmon. And so the whole idea was to get rid of the culverts that provided those, I guess, choke points, for lack of a better word, on that prevented the salmon from getting upstream. And so that was a decision handed down by, I believe it was the Ninth Circuit in 2013. And then for a variety of reasons, the state was appealing various provisions of that litigation, which is why the construction is just starting to be underway in earnest now. Because there was a lot of concern about the amount of cost associated with all of these. And now the state is that they've lost all of their appeals. And so now the state is doing these in earnest. And that's why they're really trying to do them in rapid fire session. So it's that component is really a state matter. There has been some discussion about how much that may or may not relate to local jurisdiction, culverts and things like that. Some jurisdictions have taken the view that this is a state matter, that we're not going to worry about it. I believe, and I would ask Nick Dosty, our city engineer, to confirm this, but I think Clallam County may be looking at their own culverts to see what role they may be able to do that as well. But all that to say is that you know, the activity that you're seeing is all state driven, and we've not been involved in identifying that. And it's my understanding that the Department of Fish and Wildlife, in consultation with the tribes, have identified those fish barrier culverts.
So there's no issues like that within the city coming in our future?
I would say that there's always a possibility.
Okay.
But I'm not aware of that happening right now.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Anything else here? No? Okay, we'll move on to the next page, which is still more on this, but I'm looking at the one that has Bell Creek in the middle of it. And that description, and then the goal NE-6. How about this page? Okay. And we'll go to the next one, which is 20 of 27, and these are policies NE 6.2, NE 6.3, and so on. Anything? Yes, Dennis.
Carla, should under 6.2 also address threatened and sensitive species and not just endangered?
Well, I appreciate the question. We're obligated to protect listed endangered species and perhaps candidate species. We're not required through at least the Endangered Species Act. I'm not the federal one. I would have to brush up a little bit on that. But when I know for sure that with the Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife's priority habitat species list, that we're not required to protect the threatened
Threatened or sensitive?
or sensitive. Correct. They have they have recommendations, and we could note them as that, but we're not required to ensure their protection as we do for the
So
listed.
they're kind of listed so they're on their watch list, so to speak. So-
That's exactly right.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you.
Larry, did you have something?
Yeah, it has NE 6.6 been completed? It talks about, you know, this was something that we were addressing out of a recommendation of 2005. So if it's been completed, could we remove it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I will check in on that because it is a relatively older plan. I did review it when I was working on this chapter. So I can take this was like a placeholder policy, but happy to take a look at those recommendations and vet them through city staff to see what has been completed and what hasn't. And if everything, if like you said, the list is like, yeah, we've done everything, then happy to remove that policy.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Great, thank
moving on down to shorelines. How about this section? Yes, Dennis.
I'm sorry. The old SMA GMA issue. How do we address the policies that are in the Shoreline Management Act in this document?
Dennis, I'm so happy you asked. Okay, so it's an excellent, first of all, It's an excellent question. And I probably need to think through it a little bit more, but what the reality is that, so my preference is to take the goals and policies from the SMA and put them in the comprehensive plan so we have some internal consistency between the two documents. So what Dennis is alluding to is that the SMA was one of the first environmental laws that were passed by the state of Washington. And, decades later came the Growth Management Act. And then I don't know, some point in the GMA history, like around year 8 to 10, the state legislature decided, hey, we've got these two big bodies of laws. We should try to figure out how to integrate them. And so their solution was, well, we'll make shorelines a required section of the GMA of a comprehensive plan. And, and therefore that's how you do it. So that's why there's a shoreline section here in the natural environment. That's an appropriate place to put it. So when I went to the city's shoreline master program, it had pages and pages and pages of goals and policies, like 10. So Travis and I looked at it and we were like, what do we do with that? And so if we had inputted it in verbatim, it would have extended this greatly. So what I did was just make a note like, hey, there's goals and policies in the S&P, check those out. So there is a connection between this chapter and, the local, the SQUIM S&P and the goals and policies. Now, if you would like to see them in here, you can give me that assignment and I will go, and I will not put 10 pages of them in here, but we could, Travis and I can go and kind of call out kind of high level ones that speak to, the shoreline, kind of higher level things and put them in here. And that would just continue, that would reinforce that connection between this chapter and the shoreline master program. But I just don't think it just didn't sit well. It would have extended this chapter to kind of an unreasonable length. So
I agree. And I'm just wondering if there could be like a signpost in here that says, oh, if you're going to be doing development within the shoreline jurisdiction, make sure you check out this document as well. But not the full 10 pages of policies. And
okay. So do you want something more than what like that last paragraph is where we provide a link, or we could put a couple I easily put a goal that says continue to administer the city's shoreline master program, and and then have a policy that says development shall follow the shoreline master program, and throw one or two policies in there so that there's a nod to it, but without the excess of what's in there, and it's appropriate to be in there. Doesn't need to be duplicated here.
I don't know. I'm looking at that last sentence, and maybe that is enough to direct people that, hey, there might be a set of other regulations here that I have to be aware of. I don't know. Maybe that's sufficient. Or maybe you could say, and are incorporated into this document as policies.
I think that that's a good idea. We could incorporate it by reference in full as if
Right.
they were presented here themselves. I like that. Do you think that would work? Well, okay, so we'll think on that, but if not, if it doesn't, then let's put a goal and policy in there that does that then.
Yeah, and quite honestly, we're not going to see well, maybe we will see a lot of development within the shoreline jurisdiction that this could be applicable to. Yeah. Yeah, I take that back. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anything else? Okay. So let's move on to energy and sustainability. How about this section? Everybody good with everything there? Okay. We'll move on to urban forestry. How about this one? Good to go on that? Okay. How about let's see, goal NE8. That's all. Okay, that's all talks about the tree city. Anybody have anything on that on page 15 of 18 or 24 of 27 before we go into the maps?
I do. I might have one
Yes.
note. So the PARB did actually review this section yesterday. And so their one edit, which you will see, as I mentioned last meeting, when you get to see this again, it will be color coded, so you'll know what you've done and what other boards have done. So they will have their special color, you'll know. But they did delete. They did two things. They liked the word conserve instead of preserve. So they had me note that every time it says preserve to change it to conserve. And then on policy in the 8.6, they wanted to delete the term legacy trees because they they haven't defined what those are, and they weren't really sure if they were going to. And so what they agreed to is just delete legacy trees and change preserve to conserve. So it was conserve the Jerry Oaks, cactus, and so on. So
Okay, thank you. Yes, Larry.
On the legacy trees, were we maybe trying to say like a really old tree?
yes.
And should we put something in about that? So the reason why this comes up is there's a development. It's got this really old walnut tree and everybody's kind of nutty about it. Pun intended. Yes. So, and they have approached the city and the planning department to say, can you make the developer preserve this tree, like reroute the roads? Is that something we want to do, or is that something that we just remove that reference to legacy tree?
Well, we did spend a lot of time yesterday talking about tree
Mhm.
retention at the PARB. And the city council member liaison, who's Harmony, was had indicated that she was interested in it and had floated the idea with the city council. And the council was lukewarm, I guess, and that's my term, not hers, on what that means. And I will share that I have a depth of experience on tree retention and getting a program started and having standards in the zoning ordinance for it. And it is a case of be careful what you ask for sure. So I think after talking about it, because it sounded like they themselves as a board wasn't going to pursue developing, making recommendations on tree retention, and that would kind of sit with the council. They kind of backed away, and that's why they said, let's remove what legacy trees are because we're not defining them in any way in this policy or in this document. And I also believe that there will be it will probably come up during the development regulation update because that's really the place where you're going to want, that's where we're talking about. Trees on public lands can be controlled by the city and Public Works, and the PARB can be their advisory board, and the city arborist or consulting arborist can assist with that. What I think everyone's really talking about without saying it is, what do we want to do about trees on private property and how far down that rabbit hole we can go, because you can go a very far down it. So what I recommended to the PARB is that let's see what happens as we go through this comprehensive plan process. But honestly, it will be when we start talking about the development regulations that we'll see what the preferences of the community and from you guys and the council on what you want to do about tree retention during development. Because like I said, we can take a baby, we can do nothing and leave it as is. We can take a baby step towards it. That's what I would recommend. You can go all in, and I can help figure that out too. And all in is very regulatory, which it doesn't sound like really there's an appetite for, and I would support that. It's a lot. It's definitely, I mean, like City of Redmond, City of Issaquah over there on the very, very east side. They have extensive regulations. You cannot remove a tree without replanting more than one tree, and everything is very highly regulated. So my sense from last night, there wasn't an appetite for that, but there is a desire to have a conversation about tree retention. So we actually did spend a lot of time talking about this at last night's meeting. So we didn't get through all the parks policies because of that, but it did tell me some important things that I need to be aware of as we're going through this process.
Okay, Eileen?
So Gary Oaks are pretty important in our
Yes.
world. And there's a whole field of them over by Gary Blake Park. And I'm not sure who even owns the land, much less the trees, and whether the city's going to have access to the trees or be able to move them, or is it going to be a forest of Gary Oaks right near the park? Did they talk about that project there?
No, I don't think so. I
Okay.
don't remember that specifically coming up, but I suspect that was the underlying, that and the walnut tree are the underlying thing for the conversation.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
And so to your point, this has a policy. This is the policy foundation that if in the development regulations, we want to put in some specialty regulations regarding tree retention of trees that are important to SQUIM. This gives us that policy foundation to do that in the development regulations.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything else on trees? Okay. How about the maps?
Yeah, so I do want to say we're excited about these maps. These are our intern, Jax, who you met a couple meetings ago. He's our GIS intern, and so he created these specially for the DCED department. We're excited to include these maps in the comprehensive plan, and he is on track to provide all of the comprehensive plan series maps that you'll see in there. So these maps are high level. Obviously, they're not presented on a parcel by parcel basis. However, he has them created in the GIS system on a parcel by parcel basis. So we can utilize this during development review. But for the scale of an 8 by 10 sheet, it wasn't practical to include all the parcels on here.
Okay. I like the map. Anything on that one before we move to the next one? The SQUIM geologic hazard area. This one pretty good too. Okay. We'll move on to the next. Anything on this one? Yeah, go
I
ahead.
have a question. Is that land up there that we've designated urban conservancy, is that part of the Battelle PNNL on Washington Harbor? That little outcropping at the very top of our map?
Just trying to remember. I know we talked about it, and if Travis was here, he would know for sure. I
think
believe
it
it
has to
is.
be. I think it has to be. So is that urban?
It's
'Cause it's private.
it's urban conservancy, so it is intended to have. So urban's the most intense shoreline environment where the most intense development can occur. Urban conservancy, it means that it has the least amount of development that you can occur. So it's the low intensity, the least intense part
So
of,
it's preventing them from putting anything on there.
yeah, or limited.
Okay, I
Yeah.
get it. Okay, now it makes sense.
And just for a little bit of background, my memory is that they were agreeable to that because of the nature of the work that they do.
Yeah, and this map is replicating the official shoreline map that's in the shoreline master program. So while Jack's made this is a duplication of what has been adopted.
It makes sense now that, we're trying to prevent and they're okay with it. So it's not against what they have planned to do. We don't have a conflict.
Okay.
That's it.
Anything else? All right. Think it looks pretty good. Thanks
That's
for
great,
your,
you guys. Thank you so very much.
yeah, thanks for your hard work. Okay. So moving on, if nothing else on the natural environment chapter draft, we'll move on to the 2026 work plan under the director's report.
Thank you, Commission. So I just wanted to give a quick update on this. We presented the language that we had discussed at the last commission meeting. We presented that to the city council. There was some discussion, but ultimately they voted to send the draft as approved by the commission to consent on Monday. So it's on the consent agenda for Monday. It will be adopted, and then per this commission's earlier direction, Emily will then post your rules of procedure and other things like that upon your website. So you'll be able to get moving and finally check that box on your wish list there. But the reason why that we had this on a director's report as well is because we thought that it would be important to ask the commission what the appetite was to look at setting a work plan, because we are talking about it is no later than the end of July, and we are coming up on that. However, as we talked about in our agenda planning meeting, we are very aware that the comp plan, or I'm sorry, that the work plan for this year is the comprehensive plan, and that there is, even though that the comprehensive plan for 2026 is intended to be adopted by June, in all reality, we will be doing development regulations for the rest of 2026. So, but that said, we wanted to give the commission the opportunity to discuss what it is that you may want to see or things that you may want us to consider. But as Carla has already mentioned, right, we've got a lot of work to do at the development regulation stage. So throwing it out there, we specifically use the language of May as recommended by the commission. So if you are happy with comprehensive plan and a development regulations for 2026, then we can tell them that's what our plan is. But if there are other things that you would want to look at possibly entertaining, we can do that as well.
Anything? Yes, Eileen?
I think it's a good idea to keep the comp plan our priority, but because I think there'll be things popping up out of the comp plan that we could possibly add to a work plan after we get done. There might be some chores to do connected to the update. So I think that's a good idea. Just wait till we're done and see what comes up.
Okay. How about anybody else? I kind of feel the same, like we've got a pretty full plate. We're finally moving and shaking on this, and so I almost feel like there's not, I mean, we have to get, this will dictate, getting this done will dictate stuff we want to work on. Yeah. Karen, okay.
So is it
Everybody-
safe to say then, if asked by the council, that the commission has decided that the comp plan and associated development regulations and other associated cleanup is the work plan for 2026?
Yeah. And if something pertinent comes up, we'll let you know, but I feel like that in itself is a heavy lift, and we're already a year behind, so
We're very aware.
yeah.
And
That
and-
wasn't a dig, don't
No,
worry.
I know that and I appreciate that. But, as a reminder too, that there's, the legislature has been incredibly busy in the land use arena for the past few years. We've got various things within our code that we need to clean up anyway, and all of that is going to be encompassed in this work. So thank you, Commission, for respecting that workload and giving your future selves a high five on not overloading yourselves as well. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, do you have anything else for us in the director's report?
I guess I'd like to report that we provided our last deliverable to Commerce on Friday. So we made it. I know, my skin of I was gonna say there was a few weeks where I wasn't sure we were going to be able to pull it off, but so the good news is that the city will receive all of this grant money, and I've been reporting that out for you the last couple of meetings, but just want to confirm it's all been done, delivered. So now we're just waiting, checks in the mail.
All right, thank you. Okay, how about good of the order? Does anybody have anything for good of the order? No? Man, we are quiet tonight. Okay, well, then it looks like that's everything that we've got on our agenda. If somebody would like to make a motion to adjourn? Okay. Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, meeting adjourned at 6:26.
Thanks, Commission.
Thank you.